Hello.
Hello. Right at the same time as always.
Oh my gosh. Welcome back to PS We Have No Plan. I'm Peyton Smith calling in from LA.
I'm Emily McManus calling in from Nashville, and I'm going to do my best to not talk over you this episode.
Whatever. We are
Whatever.
we are back. And we have an amazing guest this episode, which is very exciting. One of my close friends, Sophia Mar. So welcome, Soph.
Hi.
Yay.
Yes, this episode we're going to be talking a little bit more about wellness. Soph is a wellness queen and is a spin instructor and has completely pivoted her life in a super exciting way that has very much inspired me. And I'm excited to have her share a little bit more about her journey and talk about wellness. So,
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited.
oh, we're so happy you're here.
So happy. We love having guests, and we don't really get to do that often. So this is just so nice and to get your perspective because we talk about wellness and health mentally and physically all the time, but to have a professional like this is super cool. And I'm hopeful like you can help me.
I'll do
I
my
know.
best.
Yeah,
know.
thank you. Thank you.
So I can set the stage just so everyone knows. Soph is, well, we met, I don't even know when, like when we were 13 or 14, and we played volleyball together back in high school for club. And Soph and I were super close. She would always come over to my house after school and we'd drive to practice together. She'd make the most amazing playlists because our practice were really far away. So we'd listen to great music in the car, and then her and I actually went to a spin class and she fell in love with it and now is this amazing spin instructor in Denver. So that's how we know each other. But I know there's so much more that
Yeah,
Soph has gone through. But maybe you can start, Soph, with just sharing like a little bit about yourself and giving yourself a little introduction because you're going to do it better than we can.
that was pretty good though. I mean, it's crazy to think about how much time we actually spent together when we were playing volleyball. Like, I think I was with you from like 2:30 to like 10 p.m. some days
Yeah.
after
Oh my
school.
gosh. Just to
No, it's
interject, isn't it so wild when you think about how long your days of sports were when you were in high school or middle school, even? And now I can't even imagine.
so long,
So
So long.
long.
so long. Yeah, we spent a lot of time practicing and traveling and all this stuff.
Yeah, we had to do
Um,
tournaments and all that, remember? And like all the, it's just like a lot of times, yeah, time spent. And we were the setter middle duo. So we also had to like connect with that. And there was lots of good times.
yeah, yeah, so many good times. But anyways, about me, like Peyton said, I'm a spin instructor in Denver, and I made the switch to make myself a full-time fitness instructor. Also, I work for Viv Cycle, doing almost everything, but like my title is marketing. CMO is as we call it, but it's a small business, and we just wanted to give ourselves fancy names when we started. But yeah, 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years now, I converted full time to working with this cycle studio. And it's been crazy wild, but so much fun at the same time. And I'm so lucky to get to do what I do every single day. Um, but yeah, I've from California, obviously, moved over here with literally one friend. And I was like, oh, how do I make friends as an adult? This is so wild. And like I found that fitness was a really natural way for me to meet people. And then I started to go to more classes and then kind of miss my studio that I had back in Oakland. And then I found Viv Cycle right when they opened. And I was like, oh, I feel like this place is pretty special. So then I taught there for like 6 months, and then I was like, "Can I work here full time?" The owner was like,
Oh,
"Yeah, you can."
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So your corporate job, you worked at WOW in Denver first.
I kind of had a wonky work situation. I worked for Airbnb when I was in San Francisco, and then worked remotely when I moved for a couple months.
Mm.
And then I was having like I feel like the classic fresh out of college, just like kind of crisis of like, what do I want to do? How am I gonna be impactful with what I'm doing? And I knew I really wanted to help the world, and I was really passionate about sustainability, um, just like making people better people. And then also obviously fitness. But like fitness always seemed like something you do like on the side. Like I just watched so many people do that as their side gig or side hustle type deal. So I didn't realize that I could make it my full-time gig. So when I moved to Denver, I was like literally juggling so many different jobs. I worked at Lulu. I worked for this compost company, another small business where we literally biked around Denver and picked up compost from residents and like businesses. And that
Wow.
was yeah, that was crazy. I was like so excited, obviously, as another small business. I was like, oh, I'm gonna, help build this place up. Like, I can't wait to see like all the impact we can make. And then it was just like really exhausting biking around in
Oh,
the
I bet.
cold.
The cold
Yeah.
mountains.
Yeah. And I was like, I feel like I do love my like physicality and that I can be an athlete, but like there's a point where I can't like use my brain to function anymore, like because I was just like so tired physically from doing that work. But yeah, so I was just juggling a bunch of jobs. I had an office job at a media agency right before Viv, and then I was like, I just am thinking about Viv all the time, and I want to like do all these things and have all these ideas. Like I should just spend all my energy doing that.
I love that you were able to make that leap because in our last episode, Emily and I were talking about these separate passion projects that we've been working on. And there's just so much like stress and anxiety around how do you make this a job or how do you like, is that the right move to make this a job? Because one,
Hmm.
it's like my passion. And is it, is it scary to monetize it and will it become no longer my passion if I do that? And then
Totally.
also just like the fear of leaving a cushy situation to go try something. So how did you approach it? Like I mean, you were thinking a lot about it, you said, but
Yeah.
what happened? Like what was your mindset?
So I literally always knew that I wanted to be a lead instructor or like at least some sort of like leadership because I do take like things very seriously and I've coached club volleyball too, like when I was in college and I just like took coaching really seriously. So I was just like spending obviously a lot of time at Viv while also having my full-time job. And I was just like, even though I'm working an insane amount of hours, like I am just so happy with all these hours that I'm at Viv. And like that's the kind of thing where, you know, you love something and it doesn't really feel like you're working.
Hmm.
So I was taking on like all these extra responsibilities of being the head coach at Viv or like, coming up with marketing campaigns or social stuff. And not like actually completing it, but I would just be like, oh, this is a good idea. Like you should try to do this because I didn't have quite enough time aside from being a head coach for like all the instructors. But I was just like trying my very best to make it a seamless transition where I was like, I know I'm going to have some sort of stability in that transition instead of being like, oh, I don't really know what's going on the other side. Let me just like take a leap of faith. Like I had my job lined up. I had saved a bunch of money and then I was like, okay, we're gonna take this leap now, which was actually I had already agreed. So I had 2 weeks. I told them I was leaving. And then on the day that I was supposed to start at Viv was when COVID shut down the world.
Oh,
Yeah. So we closed for 3 months and that was interesting.
I mean, that in itself is a hurdle. And
Yeah.
so you add that on top of starting, jumping into your passion. And we've talked about this a lot too. When you leave what you're used to and go to chase what you love, you will take on whatever you want. You will take on 5 jobs or whatever it takes because you found what you love. And
Yeah.
it's amazing what you can do for yourself when there's passion behind it, And
Totally.
I would love to know, you know, obviously there's a huge physical element to what you do, spinning, but leaving your corporate job and then doing spinning full time, did that affect your mental health at all?
It actually, I more than I realized. So obviously, the transition into COVID like turned us into survivor mode, where it's just like, we have to try to figure out how to make some money some way, or like what's going to happen when like things open back up, and like there's just so many mo moving parts where it wasn't so much thinking about like I was more concerned with Viv surviving instead of like me getting laid off or
Mm,
like anything like that. So I wasn't really thinking too much about myself because I really saw in those like first 6 months that we were open, I was like, this is something so special. Like the way my teammates like care to make this a really inclusive, fun environment, but also a challenging environment is like was so special to me. So in that first beginning period, I was like just grinding, like let's have a run club while we can't be at the studio. Let's post YouTube videos, which are so atrocious to look back at now. And like when we first started posting on YouTube, all the songs would get blocked,
Oh,
which was so annoying.
Oh.
yeah.
And then my owner was like, "Can you guys like just post the playlist on Spotify and then you just do it in silence, recorded?" And I was like, "You want me to just be screaming up there in silence with like literally no sound, no music
Oh
behind
my
it?"
God.
Oh,
But we worked it out. We figured out a way where we didn't get blocked. But yeah. So it
good.
didn't really come down until like we started getting people back in the studio of like equating your success with a number of like having people coming to your class or memberships being sold and then coming to your class like that took a big toll on me more recently like in the last 6 months or so and like I've been doing a lot of work and like I went to therapy for the first time because I was like I feel like I am a very confident person. I've like never changed for anyone, but there's like a part of me that like equates my success to people coming to my classes. Um, and so like sometimes I don't like feel bad, like, about myself or like, what am I doing wrong? Did I offend that person? What did I say? And I like am doing so much work currently to be like, I know what I'm doing. People can like me for who I am. And if they don't like me, like they can go elsewhere. And that's the beauty of like having multiple different types of coaches at a studio or multiple different types of fitness things in a city. So yeah, that was the most challenging thing for me of is getting over that. And currently, and sometimes I'm great at it, and sometimes now I'm just like still terrible about it and feel bad about myself. But we're working on it, and it's been feeling better and better.
That's really
Long,
hard. That's a really
long-winded answer to that.
no,
That
I
was a
mean
great answer.
that's a great answer. That's what podcasts are for. That's why we love
Yeah,
this
we
this
love
medium.
talking.
Yeah. Yeah, we love
Trust
talking.
us, we have long answers at times or
Always.
no answer.
I feel like I was able to go to a Viv cycle class, which was really exciting. My little
Mm,
sister came with me and my sister-in-law for Christmas break. We went and visited my parents, and it was just so awesome. So to see, which I feel like we haven't really talked about after, but it was so cool. Like the community aspect, the fire alarm went off halfway through the class, and I was like, oh my God, shit, like what's gonna happen? I was so excited, like finally taking this class. And I was like, everyone's gonna go and everyone's gonna leave because it's snowing outside or it was super cold outside. But everyone stood outside, waited, like cheered for Soph. They're like, we're gonna wait. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna wait. It's like it was
we're
so
waiting.
it was just
I was so
beautiful
stressed.
community. I know, but like it was this amazing community feel, and everyone packed back into the studio and we all finished the class and people were cheering and still super excited and hyped. And it was like I just don't know if that would happen at like a Soul Cycle, for example. Like I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
it was the community aspect of what you've built there. So I mean, for what it's worth, I'm super proud and you should be too. So if that was such an amazing experience going
Oh,
and
thank
being a
you
part
so
of it.
much.
That
Thank
does
you.
seem like, I mean, people wouldn't stand out in a snowstorm for just anybody. So you have to be a good coach for
Yeah.
that. And they want to come back to you. And I also think there have to be challenges when your profession revolves around
Totally.
others wanting to be there or like wanting to
Totally.
take place. Yeah, because I would imagine it's not just about the instructor too. Some people get off of their routine or they can't make it or life gets in the way, but you can't help but think it's me. And I can relate to that. I think a lot of us can because you just care so much.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. And I like have gone through waves of, telling myself those things. Like it's not about me particularly. There's so many different factors that play into people's decision to come into class and all that stuff. Um, and but like sometimes you just like get so wrapped into it. It's like you want to be successful, you want to have people in class. And at one point it was like, having people in class meant that we were going to be able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I hold a lot of that sentiment still, where right now we're coming out of the dip from COVID, which hit us really, really, really hard. And like we're finally getting out of it. I'd say like the beginning of this year, we're just like, okay, we can like finally not have to like beg people to come take class with us. Like people can walk in on their own and stuff. And so I do think that having that experience where it's like, if people aren't in your class, that might mean that Viv might die. And so like I have
Hmm.
a lot of emotions attached to that sometimes. And these days it's feeling obviously so much better, like for the majority of the time.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's amazing. And I feel like I'd love to learn from you about just wellness in general, because I think that's something, it's a topic Emily and I talk about often. Like for me as an athlete, my wellness journey or whatever you want to call it, like that's shifted so much over time. And I've had to redefine what wellness means to me because it was a bit restrictive when I was in that type
Totally.
of lifestyle. So it's like, how has it shifted for you? Has it changed? Have you evolved? Like, what? How do you define it now?
Yeah. So in when I first got out of college, which was probably the same for you, it was like um you don't know what to do with yourself. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I like kind of went full force into running and like definitely did it to an unhealthy amount where I was like very rigid with how much I needed to run and how fast I needed to run and all this stuff. And I also like got unhealthily obsessed with health, where I was like reading too many books and like having to change my diet. And I went vegan, which there's no shame to vegans, but like I'm half Chinese and half Mexican. So there's like a lot of cultural things that are really important to me that have to do with eating fish and eating meat and stuff. And I like really neglected those things. And I like was actively sad about not eating
Mm.
them. And I'd be like, no, but I got to do it for my health so I can live 800 years. Um, and then I just like learned the balance of obviously nourishing your soul and like and nourishing like your body and like there's a good balance to it. But with spinning, like I kind of found that pretty obviously early with you, Peyton, but um when I graduated college, I like took some classes and then I was like, oh, this is just like fun. Like it's fun
Hmm.
vibes. You don't have to like think too much, which is really nice because I feel like in sports, like you just spent so much time thinking and stuff. So it's like a very different thing where you just like clip in, you're there, you listen, and then you just act. And then you can also just like feel really cool and badass when you listen to cool music. So I just got really excited about that really quickly because I also love music, obviously.
We're big fans.
Yeah,
Yes. Emily's in the
love
music
music.
industry too, which
Oh
is
yeah,
amazing. So
Yeah.
what music has been like is for all of us such a cool, important thing. But I totally agree. I feel
Yeah.
like spin is such a, especially your classes are just so, it's more about moving to the rhythm and having fun. It's like a dance party on a bike versus
yeah,
like what we used to do is training for a certain goal. And this is more about like enjoying the community and listening to good music, which I love.
totally. Yeah, and just like you can really like smile in class like probably every 30 to 15 seconds, which I think is just
Oh.
so in other workouts it's not that way. Like you don't see me running for like 16 miles just like smiling the whole time or laughing or
Mm.
giggling or anything. And in at Viv, like you're guaranteed to have a giggle with the people in class or something's gonna happen and you're just gonna come out making a new friend or something like that. So that it was also the same way at my old studio back in California at Ride Oakland. Like everyone was just like really close and enjoyed being with each other and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is nice to just like have a place you go that's not work, but it's like also a community where you can go and
Hmm.
like be excited to see people.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't come from the same background as you guys. I swam throughout all of my life, but I was not an athlete. I'm definitely not gifted in that area. I've had to work hard just to like maintain being able to do it. But it's comforting in a weird way knowing that you guys went through this ups and downs of fitness just like somebody that's not totally gifted in it. Like for myself, I've gone through the waves and I've gone extreme and then completely off. And it's kind of going through those where you learn what works for you and really what you have to do to stay well.
Oh,
Totally.
absolutely. I feel like everyone goes through that at some point in their lives.
Hmm.
It's just interesting to your point, like that athletes you would imagine wouldn't have that struggle as much or would know what to do
Right.
outside of the gym, but It's like we had trainers and in college, like nutritionists and weightlift trainers and coaches, like everyone, we had a team of people telling us exactly what to do. And also certain body parts had to be certain ways to help you reach certain goals. Like I was a middle, so I was supposed to jump super high. So my legs and my calves and my butt and all those things had to be like super strong. So it was just so much more about what your body could do to achieve a goal versus how do I feel good? How do I stand tall? How do I, gain confidence or get mental clarity, or like the types of things that I personally now use fitness
Yeah.
for.
So performance based, which
Yes.
gives me a little bit of anxiety thinking about all the things we had to do to
No,
like
I can see
perform at a
that.
certain level.
Yeah, it
And
totally does.
in a way, I think it can maybe turn you against it for a little bit of time because it is so heavy on just the stress and pressure of how you need to perform. And if you don't perform, you're letting somebody else down or your team doesn't win or whatever it might be. So that you have found now the other side of that it just gives you happiness and release. I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal.
Totally.
Yeah. What is your take though, Soph? Because I feel like I sometimes come about this where I have a lot of fear around people being like, oh my God, she's fallen off. Like she can't even run anymore. She can't even finish a spin class without like breathing too heavily or whatever, because I was this athlete for so many years. Like, what do you think about this? Do you ever question people? You're obviously still in the fitness industry, so you're in great shape
Mhm.
still. But what is that? How do you feel about all of that?
I know, so like quite a few, I often in my class talk about being an athlete and like just my experience coming out of it, throughout it. And like there's a lot of people that will come up to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was an athlete too. And so many people will say that like once they're done, they're just like, I'm not working out, until
Mm-hmm.
further notice, which is a very normal thing, I think, and a really normal response to like finally having like the forced sprints and the forced weightlifting sessions, like
Mhm.
um, having to do those. So I think like obviously I'm all for like everyone's in their own journey in life and like their own
Mm-hmm.
waves, kind of like we said. And like I obviously am all for like if you need to just sit and do nothing, like sit and do nothing. Like if that's good for your mind at the moment, do that. If walking is like all you want to do, like I'm all for that, do that. Because I think it is obviously like you can get burnt out. And I think that's the biggest thing is when you're an athlete, like burnout is just so common, especially like I feel like in the D1 where it's just like, oh my God, when does this end type
Mm-hmm.
deal? And there's like obviously great memories with being on a team, but like
Mm-hmm.
the work that you put into play on that team is like really wild, to be honest, for like just we're just, college gals just, trying to
Yeah.
trying to get by and like my team wasn't even good and it's like why are
Same.
we dying every single 5 a.m. like Monday through Friday? Like I literally feel like I'm in a coffin. No, yeah, it's really interesting. Like sometimes when I talk about it, and I've bonded with a lot of people like
Mm-hmm.
at Viv about this too, where it's just like, holy cannoli, that experience was so crazy. And like I think at all collegiate athlete levels, like D1, D3, it is a lot of work and time you put in. So like having that time after, you're just sitting like, I'm free, I'm doing nothing.
Mm.
I'm like just I'm falling off of it. I think it's so respectable and like obviously praise anyone for like taking time that they need.
Yeah, no, I think it is so funny. It's like, and Emily, you've asked this before. You're like, how do you have the stamina to do so much shit in your day? Like your lists are so long. You have like all these different things you try to accomplish. And I'm like, I bet a big reason is because being a
Oh.
student athlete growing up, we had this mentality of always hit the next goal, always push your body or push your mind, so much of it was mental strength. Like how far can you push your mind to then trick your body into pushing it further? And so it
Hmm.
was this in some ways toxic, of course, but in other ways like this really awesome way to grow up, because I do feel like, at least personally, I've taken away a lot of goal-oriented things from that experience and pushing myself and growing and doing a lot in a day, and I find that to be helpful,
Oh
as
yeah.
well. So there's two sides to the coin, but it is an interesting thing that we both
Totally.
experienced.
It's so interesting. And something that we talk a lot, Sophie, about is like, where do you keep pushing yourself and where is the line where you need a break? And sometimes it's so hard to know where that line is. And we struggle with that. And I bet a lot of people do because there are many times where like, I just got to push through this. Like I need to do this. This is the right thing for me.
Hmm.
Whether it is running a couple miles, like this is good for me. I need to be doing this. Or what is that line where I am overwhelmed? There's too much going on right now. I need to rest my mind and just rest my body. And I think that's really hard to like
Totally.
find that freaking line.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you find that, Soph?
I've actually been thinking about this so much because when I'm in my spin class, there's obviously 40 people and I'm like coaching all 40 of them. But I feel like such a common thing in spin classes is that people push over that line like constantly. I feel like there's literally
Mm,
news articles about this where there's some sort of medical response where you push too far when you haven't worked out for a long time, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And you can get like really sick. So I've been trying to like think about how I know where my line is or like can, base off my just how my body feels, how my mind feels, and then push off that. And so I talk about that so often in class. Like if you feel like you're ready to roll, you feel like you're have control of your breath, like we have mirrors obviously facing the bikes. Like if you can see yourself and you're like riding relaxed, chest high, breathing easily, that means like you're doing it with good form and you can like push yourself. The moment you start to like see yourself like crunching up or like, you're like this or you're seeing stars or, you literally cannot breathe, like take it easy, sit down, take a rest. It's not a big deal at all. And I feel like that's such a common thing where I'm like, oh my God, they're working overtime right now. And like it's not about that. It's like it's about building, especially in my class, like it's about building up really great form and breath and mentality and then you can start to push yourself and then you can like start to push little by little but like if you try to push say you're here and you're trying to push here but you need to push here
Mm-hmm.
like you're just gonna kill yourself and it's gonna be a bad experience all around so that's how I do it in class as far as for myself I think I've really done a lot of trial and error with it like obviously I went on that really far end of things when I got out of college and I was running a lot and I was like really tired physically and my body wasn't feeling good. And so I learned kind of through that. I was like, okay, when my body actually hurts, that means slow down. When I feel like I literally, you're talking to someone and you're like, I can't form a sentence right now because I'm so tired. Like that's a sign like I need to do something in my life that is benefiting my rest. And maybe that means like riding off my bike more and not actually riding the bike for the whole class, which I've been doing a lot more, which I was always afraid in the beginning that people would judge me for not riding my bike because we ride the whole class with typically the class. And now I've been like, these are my boundaries. I'm feeling tired. In order to be my best for my riders and for myself, I need to take this rest. And you're not going to judge me for it is what I always say in my head.
yeah, I feel like that's an interesting point you bring up too, which is the visibility of your job. Like you're physically being looked at and this literal like pillar of what you're like the example, right? In this
Right.
class and how and spin clothes typically are very like, revealing, I guess, or quote unquote, like you wear leggings and your sports bra. Like, how has body image played a role for you in this career path, or has it?
It hasn't really too much. I actually had a really hard time with body image when I was in college. And when I got out, I realized like I did. Like I didn't realize it when I was in college I had it, but when I got out, I was like, whoa, I just like felt really insecure constantly about, being really strong and feeling like I wasn't like looking like, the sorority girls who are obviously not as muscular and toned and like not even toned. It's like we just had huge muscles. Like we were
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
maxing out every week and stuff. And I was like feeling really bad of myself in college about that. And then after once I realized, I was like, wow, I did not feel good about myself. I did not feel proud of my like really strong body that I worked really hard for that like was just unstoppable at the time because I constantly was like trying my very best, which is then once I realized that, I think going into this job and, you know, pushing myself and being strong, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like to have ripped arms, to have like, I always so insecure about my traps being so big. But like, this just means I'm strong and this just means I'm healthy. And I don't like, I don't look down on it as I used to. Um, so that's been a good thing for me. And I'm glad that I like caught myself early with that. Because obviously when you are working out, I feel like we were taught by the generation above us that like you're working out for a perfect physique.
Mm-hmm.
But we just have to change the narrative. Like we're working out to feel strong, working out to have confidence, not in your body type, but like just in yourself and like who you are. So
Totally.
I think I've done a good job changing my own like internal narrative around that.
Yeah, I mean, you're helping me with mine because I struggle with that all the time. I think just society around us and social media, like I fall victim to that all the time. And working in an industry that has the spotlight on so many people, and so you're constantly comparing looks and whatever body types. But what you're saying is like spot on. It's about your relationship with yourself and your health, and that's all. That's all. It's not somebody else's opinion, and you're not letting somebody else down, whether you're really on it one day or not the other. And that's I think that's so important sometimes though to realize you're not letting yourself down. It's okay.
Totally.
Oh yeah. That's why
Yeah.
Emily and I were doing like this wellness series on this podcast where we were checking in and setting a goal for ourselves around wellness. And then this last yeah, I feel like at the start of this year, right? We
Mhm.
changed our wellness, we expanded our wellness goals because um it can mean so many different things. And like for both of us, we were feeling mentally and emotionally quite exhausted. So we're like, cool, what if our wellness goal is like journaling every morning and
Yeah.
saying affirmations at night about, you know, what we want out of life or what we are appreciative of our bodies. And I think people forget about the internal narrative and the
Yeah.
saying, like you were saying out loud to your class, like, or saying out loud in your head about like, they're not going to judge me. I'm doing just fine. I'm going to set boundaries for myself. That's also a part of wellness and fitness and health is having that healthy mental dialogue, right?
And also
Oh yeah.
point where if somebody does judge you, well, that's their fucking problem. It takes time to
Yeah.
get there, but
Yeah.
it's true. It's like, well, okay, you're judging me. Good for
Right.
you. That just says more about your character than anything.
Absolutely. Have you guys read the book, The Four Agreements?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, you should read it. My coach in college had the whole team read it. And I really took taken a lot of things away from it that like ring in my head constantly. And then I just reread it like a couple weeks ago because I have been feeling like you guys like physically tired and like emotionally, like really, really tired emotionally. And I just feel like the whole idea of, you know, I'm I see a ton of people all the time and I'm like talking to people all the time at Viv in person. And I just felt like I was not necessarily feeling like they were judging me, but just like creating my own assumptions in my head about like
Mm-hmm.
what they were thinking. And I was like, I know this is not healthy for me. I need to like have a level set. And so reading that book is basically about like not making assumptions, that if someone is judging you or saying like bad things about anything or anyone or you, like that's their problem. So it's just like a really nice, just grounding book to help just give reason to why people act a certain way or just internally how you can control your own reactions to what people are doing. So that was really helpful. I highly recommend.
Ooh, I love that.
What's it
Yeah,
called again?
the Four Agreements. And it's real short. I think it's like 100 pages. Like bing, bang, boom, done.
That's
I
my
love
speed.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And Em loves self-help books and things of
I
that
do.
sort. So I feel like that one kind of aligns with what you're interested in too.
Yeah,
I will
very much
definitely read.
so.
so good.
I wanted to ask you, I know we're coming to an end. There's just so much we can talk
I
about with you.
I
know.
know.
Maybe we can have
Um,
you on
5 hour
again.
long.
Like,
I know, I know. I wanted to ask around social media because I think another piece of your what's so cool about your career is, like you mentioned, you're a CMO, you're thinking about marketing and social media, and you're building this really awesome platform across all these different digital medias. How do you see social media? Is it another thing that you kind of need to monitor? Are you sort of like just using it as a marketing tool? What do you think?
Oh my God, social media. I hate it, but I also love it,
Yeah.
but I also hate it. I feel like we both got on TikTok like the same
We
time and we're
did.
like posting a ton. And that
Mm-hmm.
like was really fun for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, oh my God, you gotta post 8,000 videos to like even get some sort of like notoriety. And I was doing it at first to like see if we could get people from Denver to come in or like
Mm-hmm.
follow us on Instagram because we also do have an on-demand platform. So I started doing it like that. And then like videos would get traction and then videos wouldn't. And then I started getting addicted to it. And then
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that just has become a whole thing where I've recently just been trying to like tone it back a little bit. But my idea behind it is for myself, like I want to have some sort of name for myself and like some sort of following for myself. Because I've worked really hard and like I don't take my classes lightly. I don't take my time on the mic lightly. And so I just like want to spread that as wide as I can and get people to come from Denver, get people to come from out of state, which actually a lot of people have. They've like coming to Denver not
Seriously?
just to see me.
Oh my gosh. I know they will. They will
Yeah,
one
they
day.
will.
They already have a trip planned and then they stop by to see me, but still that's good enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite a few people, which like blows my mind that they're like, oh yeah, I saw you on TikTok or I saw you on Instagram Reels. I'm just like, this is so cool. Um, because I mean, like with instructing, my main goal is just to help people and like create a really positive environment and like so much to do with the book that I just talked about, where you just feel really good about the way you can live your life and that anyone else that brings negativity to your life, like it doesn't have to do anything with you. And that's what I just want to create, like really, really amazing people and help people feel amazing and confident and all that stuff. So I was like, social media is such a great way to like obviously expand my reach. But it's really hard and it's really hard to get negative comments and I don't know, just feel that's another one where you feel judgment from people, even though they might not even be doing anything. I just like feel judged when I post sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been definitely really hard mentally to manage that and probably has to do with like my emotional fatigue too because you like put so much time into videos and stuff and you want to share who you are and you want to share something that's special about you and stuff and so it feels vulnerable and then sometimes it like cannot be received well, which I haven't experienced too much, but I have had a lot of trolls on like my viral videos, which is sad.
So sad. And I think you're
Yeah,
right though. The people that are doing that are the ones that aren't doing anything.
right.
And so it's easier to poke at what you're doing wrong instead of what they're doing wrong, for sure.
Right. It's just like the silliest things where people are just so angry about the way I ride a bike or, just the way we had one of my TikToks went viral of my friend. The couple met at Viv and then they got married. And so we had like a fake wedding at the studio on the bikes and like
So cute.
people were just absolutely ripping us to shreds about how stupid we were and stuff. And I was like, what on earth is wrong with you guys? This is
Yes.
literally a happy moment. And there's like, how could you have your real wedding at a spin studio? Just like, I
Mind
just
your own yard. It doesn't
no,
have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
I don't get the comments on like, I mean, on TikTok, I feel like they're pretty ruthless. On Instagram too, but TikTok, I feel like you can get like up likes for commenting. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
think you have something that's going to stick with another person, even if it's a really shitty comment, like people still comment it because they want to get a little shot at fame, which I think is kind of sick. But I just ignore and I've also been just deleting now, which I really like.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I
Because it
think it's
definitely sucks when you look at someone else's video and like someone's hating on them. Just like, this is such bad vibes. Even if the video obviously is good vibes, it's like I'm really big on not don't leave that stuff up. Social media, man.
We
We always
struggle with
talk,
it
I
all the
know.
time.
We
Yeah.
always talk about it because it is such a fun place to like make fun videos and making in this digital world. It's fun to share little videos or photos or things. And Emily and I both love it so much, but
Yeah.
that is so scary, as well as
Mhm.
like past people seeing you and being like, who are who is this person trying to
Yeah.
post this little video, you know? So
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into it, but I think at the end of the day, you just have to, you know, protect yourself and
Yeah.
delete what you need to delete and turn off when you need to turn off and just really
Yes.
see it for what it is, which is just a platform to share, you know, what you're up to.
Yeah,
Just do your
totally.
best. Release the expectations as hard as it is, but
Yeah.
just keep doing your best and do what makes you happy.
Yeah. And I truly love making videos. And like sometimes I forget that when I'm trying to like, there was a while on TikTok, and I'm sure you relate to this too, Peyton, where I was like, let me post 3 times a day. Like, let
Yeah.
me just get after it. And I love making videos, but I was like, I feel like I'm losing the love for it as I'm trying to just like post so much. And so I think um enjoying the process is really, really important. And I'm learning that. And then also not like being like, oh my God, how many people liked it? Oh my God, who commented? Just like
Hmm.
tossing it away and that's it. It's up. That's what I wanted. I wanted to share that. And then I can come back to that another time.
Exactly. Thank you so much, So, for joining. That was such a helpful conversation around wellness and social media and the fitness industry and giving us tips and tricks and book recommendations. We're excited for that one.
Yeah,
And
let
we'll
me
have
know what
to,
you think.
yeah, we will. And we'll have to have you back on because I feel like this was such a engaging episode. So thank you.
Yes.
You're the best. Thank you everyone for listening.
You're the best. It's
Oh,
been so fun that we've been able to stay connected like after all these years. Literally like 13 years.
really? Yeah, I guess. Wild.
Wild.
Um, well, this was amazing, and thank you everyone for listening. We post a new episode every Thursday. Follow us. P.S. We have no plan across all social medias. And then Soph, how do we follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's at Smof, which I've had my handle since I was in high school. It's S and then 4 M's OPH. And then the same thing on TikTok. And then follow Viv Cycle also if you're into cycling and want to come by in Denver. So it's obviously the best time. I'm not biased, but it's the best time ever.
It is. Okay, thank you everyone. We'll talk to you later.
I woke up in the morning and the sun broke through the opened curtains. The birds sang too and they said, "This is a day to